2022 was an amazing year for entertainment.
You do not know everything, boy.
Happened an age ago.
I'm death.
We also got some pretty great manga. So in this video, I'm going to be looking back at the best things that happened in the year. That could either be new series that started in 2022 and it looks super promising, or it could be a massive occurrence for an already ongoing series. Look, I know this is kind of late, okay? Imagine you and your family were going on a field trip. Then suddenly you guys crashed and the first thing that you remember about yourself is you waking up in the hospital from a coma. When they ask you what your name is, you don't remember. But that's not the worst thing that could ever happen, right? Because even if you have amnesia, what helps most for that is the people that are close to you. They let you know who you were, but your entire family also has amnesia. So now that there isn't really anything that you can do about it, you guys decide to take it easy and just live life and try your hardest to remember who you were. So when you first get to your house, this is what you see. And when the main character went to his room, this is what he saw. This is the very basic premise of the Ichinose family's deadly sins. Our main cast, the family, all have amnesia and they try to live their lives and find out who they were in the past, because from what it seems from the house, they weren't very well adjusted people. The moment I saw this manga in the Manga Plus app, I instantly recognized the art style, and it was from the short story Takopi's Original Sin, and that manga was fantastic. To show how amazing this short story is, it's currently nominated for the Tezuka Osamu Cultural Award. If you don't know what that is, it's basically similar to the Oscars, but it's for manga. I won't really get into it too much here, but if you want to know more about it, you can watch Super Eyepatch Wolf's last current State of Shonen Jump video. Now, when I realized it was from the same mangaka, I knew I couldn't pass it up. This story tackles a lot of themes and big questions. Like, for example, are you who you are if you don't have your memories? Or do you just become a totally new person? Do your past mistakes still hold accountability even though this new person doesn't know he made those mistakes? It's a really interesting premise, and what makes it even more interesting is that members of the family get arcs where we're focused on them and trying to fix their package that they're dealing with. I honestly think this manga is a must read. At the time of making this video, it only has 13 chapters out, so it'll be easy to catch up, and trust me, you don't want to miss out on this one. It's rare that I find a new shonen manga with a really creative and unique world, but Gachiakuta fits that description pretty well. Legit trash, yes, that's the English name. It follows this boy Rudo who was framed for murder and was thrown into the abyss, which is a void at the edge of the world they live in. But it turns out that the abyss is actually Earth, and Rudo is considered a sky person, which is a really valuable thing for the Earth people. Okay, other than the world building, we also have a pretty interesting power system and a power hierarchy that gets established alongside the world building. Oh, and of course I need to mention this, it also has some pretty great art, which helps a lot. The character designs are really cool and they feel very unique. But aside from that, there's something pretty interesting. Soon we're gonna be in a drought of battle shonen. Black Clover, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen are all in their ending phases, which is gonna leave a massive gap in the market, and I haven't really seen too many battle shonen that fill their spots. Like on Jump, they've been trying with a lot of series, but from what I've seen, nothing really stuck. And some get cancelled before they even get the chance. But with Gachiakuta, it's in a different magazine, one that lets in few series, but the ones they serialize, they get to stay without cancelling too fast. So this creates a great opportunity for Gachiakuta, and it looks like the mangaka knows that, because he isn't rushing to do things. It's still kind of in its establishing phase. So brace yourself, because this will probably be the next big shonen.
Hey, 16問でございます。16問？ああ、じゃあ銭は細けんだ。ちょっと手出してくんねえかな。いいかい？ひ、ふ、み、よ、いつ、む、ななや。今、何時で？へえ、9つで。と、11、12、13、14、15、16。あばよってんで言ってしまいました。
What you just saw was the traditional Japanese storytelling art rakugo. Basically, OG stand-up comedy. Wait. Sit-down comedy, I guess? Akane Banashi is a manga all about this performance art. What I said about it being sit-down comedy is true, but there is a massive difference, which is the fact that you don't really come up with your own jokes. There are a set amount of stories in Rakugo, and what differs each performance is the performer themselves. They put on a full show while sitting down on a small cloth with their only prop being a classical fan. And with all these limitations, the performers, with their insane talent that they've built over decades of of training, they're able to lure you into this world and make you live in the stories that they're telling, all with just limited body language and their voice. It's truly an amazing feat. And performers differ from one another completely, even though they're telling the same stories. Well, Akane Banashi is all about this art, and at the helm of this story is the main character, Akane, who is super passionate about Rakugo. I personally love stories that feature people that are passionate about what they're doing, and they progressively get better at it and love it more throughout the run of the manga. This manga brings you into this world that you know near nothing about and shonenifies it. The art and story work so well together to deliver this amazing, unique story with some really incredible pacing. It hooks you from the start and makes you want to keep following the progress of Akane, and along the way it might teach you a few things about telling a story. Jujutsu Kaisen has been fire this past year with the current events, and that was reflected in the sales. Jujutsu Kaisen was the #1 selling manga of 2022 with 12.2 million copies sold. Akutami has been cooking this story to greatness. We are seeing all the puzzle pieces fall into place. All the things that the community was excited for are starting to happen. And the sad reality to this greatness is that we're closing into the ending of this fantastic manga, which I'm guessing will either be this year or the next. So while we still have it and while it's at its peak, let's enjoy Akutami cooking. I love stories that are about making entertainment. Stuff like Akane Banashi, Bakuman, Look Back, my favorite Fujimoto story by the way, and Goodbye Eri falls into the same category. It's about a boy that's making a movie documenting his mom's final days, but that's kind of it only on the surface. However, when you start looking at the story with a deeper look, you'll find that the story talks about the creative voice of this boy, and while on the journey of this masterful story, we follow him as he embraces his creative voice by the end of this one shot. I made an entire video talking about why I believe Fujimoto is a genius, and he put out one of his best showings of that genius with Goodbye Eri. Like all his stories, he made it reflect his reality and his experiences. This story made us live in his mind for its duration. If you read the story with that in mind, you will really start to see the parallels between Fujimoto and the main character. He drags you into this 200-page one-shot with his amazing visual storytelling. This manga was made as if it were a movie. It's genuinely an experience of its own, and Fujimoto is the only one that can make you experience that. Everyone had insane expectations for Chainsaw Man Part 2, and it's pretty warranted because the last few arcs of Part 1 were Fujimoto at his best. And in the break between Parts 1 and 2, we got a few one-shots that showcase his greatness even more. Even with the insane level of expectations that people had, Fujimoto was able to go beyond those expectations. He gave us a completely new protagonist, and from just the first chapter, everyone was already loving her. I'll admit, I wasn't a fan of Chainsaw Man for most of its run, and it didn't really hook me until post the assassination arc. But from that point on, I started to see where all that praise was coming from. So to me, Part 2 is already a much better start than that of Part 1. You can feel that the story matured, and so did Denji. Every week, I look forward for the new chapter, and I can't wait to see what Fujimoto has in store for us. There are very few manga in mainstream magazines that can go on a hiatus until the author wants to come back, and they gain that ability once they've cemented themselves into the scene with their stories. Hunter x Hunter is one of those stories. The world that Togashi brought us into is one where we can never have enough, and the characters of that world were some of the best in shonen, if not manga in general. And Togashi never wanted to stop making this amazing story, but sometimes people don't really get to do what they want because of things out of their control. And Togashi was forced to stop making new Hunter x Hunter chapters due to his continuously worsening back problems, and he started taking a lot of long hiatuses, and the last one being 3 years plus. Many people accepted that there will probably be no more chapters. So when the news broke out that the GOAT was coming back, the entire manga community was over the moon with this news. Man got over 1 million followers in Twitter in just a few days. This just goes to show that Hunter x Hunter wasn't just a manga to so many people. The story will go down in history as one of the greats, and at the helm of that greatness is the man behind it, Togashi. Let's all wish that he gets better soon, because even though he came back for a bit, his back problems didn't really get any better. He just found ways to create manga in spite of those problems. He truly is an inspiration to many.
For this one, I'll just let the masked man handle it.
Now, admittedly, I don't think there was as many stuff to manga in 2022 as we had in 2020, where there seemed to be a boom of all these different series catching up and trending. But one of the things that did happen in 2022 was the return of Berserk. Now, many people, myself included, were really ecstatic to see this, but understandably not everybody shared the same sentiment. Of course, continuing the series without the original author and artist is always something that causes a lot of worry and anxiety, and questions about whether or not that should be done in the first first place. Those sentiments are completely understandable, and I respect anyone who holds to them. However, I also do admire the current team that is working on Berserk being led by Koji Mori, Miura's best friend. And I think if anybody would have known the desires of Miura regarding his series in case anything were to happen to him, it would have been Koji Mori and his assistants. And personally, I think the team has done a great job up to this point regarding where it's been taking the story and the way that it's been going about it. If there were to be any criticisms, it would be some of the inconsistent artwork at times, but I think the most recent chapter 2 has shown some major improvements. Now, of course, the story and the art will never be the same without Miura, may he rest in peace. But I'm excited to see Koji Mori and the team working on Berserk at the current moment do their best to honor his legacy.
There are very few series that can stay on top for decades. One Piece is one of those series. Even though right now it's not getting the best-selling manga every year, but it's still always in the top 10. Honestly, this year One Piece went above and beyond with this story. Oda has been putting on a show with this masterpiece for longer than I have been alive. And last year we hit a point that there's no coming back from. Luffy's Gear 5 is an accumulation of all those years of One Piece. It embodies the themes of the story. Nothing will come close to the hype we had when the new form was teased. The entire internet was talking about it from the moment the chapter dropped. One Piece was trending globally. In my opinion, ever since that drop, Oda has been bringing his A game, except for a couple chapters here and there. And that wasn't the only thing from One Piece this year. Oda took a break for a month to prepare for the final saga, and since the break, he hasn't missed. The final saga is shaping up to be better than anybody expected. We're getting very satisfying answers for questions that we have had for years and years. If you haven't read One Piece, this is your call to action. You do not want to miss the final saga. This is going to be the peak of One Piece, the best selling manga of all time, and you wouldn't want to miss it. Now, with all that being said, subscribe for more manga content and click right here to know why Fujimoto is an absolute genius.